The honourable member from Regina Capel.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, prices are up, crime's up, time's up. And the NDP leader has sold out workers by devaluing their paycheck by supporting Liberal inflationary deficits. He sold out seniors and families by hiking the carbon tax, driving up the cost of food and home heating. And he has sold out young Canadians who have given up on the dream of home ownership thanks to the doubling of housing costs. And what did he sell them out for? To protect his pension. Now Canadians have to suffer longer just so he can get paid. So why doesn't the Prime Minister just call a carbon tax election so Canadians can decide?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't think we should be politicizing pensions, but if the member opposite or his leader wants to talk about the size of their pensions, then they should talk about that, because at a time when they are getting millions of dollars or will be getting millions of dollars in government pensions, they also look to cut the pensions of everyday Canadians. Wow. Mr. Speaker, we are here to support seniors no matter where they work, not just parliamentarians with their pensions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
It's Canadian seniors who are cutting back because of this government's cost of living crisis. They're cutting back on food and home heating because of the carbon tax and inflation that this government caused. But let's go back to the NDP leader. He had a really dramatic show this summer where he pretended to rip up the agreement, but then would never commit to actually voting non-confidence and giving Canadians the carbon tax election they so desperately want. It was all just a show. So simple question, during all those meetings with the Prime Minister and the leader of the NDP, was the Prime Minister just giving him acting lessons?
The Honourable Minister of Labour and for Seniors.
Mr. Speaker, it's very interesting to hear my friend from Regina Capel, who was around in those days. In fact, he was sitting right where you're sitting, Mr. Speaker, when Prime Minister Harper went to Davos. Yes, Davos. For a reminder for some of you in the back, that's the World Economic Forum. And he went there to do what? To tell Canadian seniors that their retirement age was moving to 67 from 65. How dare the member from Regina Capel stand in this House and talk to us about pensions, Mr. Speaker?
This is what saving the furniture looks like.
I could have sworn that yesterday was Wednesday. The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
After 9 years of the NDP Liberals, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and time is up. And the Liberals and the NDP believe in quadrupling the carbon taxes to 61 cents a litre. And this is at a time when 2 million Canadians a month are going to food banks. Seniors are turning down their heat, and people are living in RVs in truck stops. Canadians cannot afford this costly coalition. When will the Canadians have a carbon tax election so they can decide between the costly NDP Liberal coalition and common sense Conservatives? Yeah.
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources and Energy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It would be nice in this House if people actually used facts. At the end of the day, a price on pollution is actually an affordability mechanism. To get rid of the carbon rebate will actually be making people who live on modest incomes poorer. At the same time, it will be imperiling the future of our children, abandoning them to a future where we have runaway climate change. It is so ridiculous after 300 economists have said that, and the Leader of the Opposition refuses to talk to any one of them, that they can get up and make up these fairy tales.
The honourable member from Kelowna Lake Country.
It's not a fairy tale that people can't afford to feed themselves in Canada, Mr. Speaker. You know, the NDP leader has voted 24 times for the carbon tax, and the NDP talk a big talk, but they cannot be trusted to do what's best for Canadian families. The NDP Liberals tax your food, punish your work, take your money, double your housing costs, and unleash crime and drugs in your communities. Common sense Conservatives will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime. Time is up. When will we have a carbon tax election so Canadians can choose their future?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and for Climate Change.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Setting aside the fact that both the Parliamentary Budget Officer and 300 economists have said that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more money than they pay to carbon pricing, we have a report today that from the independent organization, the Climate Institute, which shows that emissions are down again in Canada, Mr. Speaker, in 2023. The report also shows that without our plan, emissions would be 41% higher. That's the non-plan from the Conservative Party of Canada. That's the equivalent in terms of pollution of adding 60 million vehicles on our road, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're talking about here.
Hear, hear.
The Honourable Member from Kenora.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, taxes are up, costs are up, crime is up, and now, Mr. Speaker, their time is up. They have ballooned costs and driven up taxes to the point that people are struggling to feed, heat, and house themselves. And it's why Canadians deserve a carbon tax election, where they will be able to choose between our common sense plan to axe the tax or the NDP Liberal plan to quadruple the tax. So, Mr. Speaker, why are the NDP continuing to sell out Canadians and support this Liberal government?
The Honourable Minister for Families and Social Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity that the Conservatives have given me to speak about what's up. Do you know what's up, Mr. Speaker? The number of childcare spaces available for families across this country. Also, Mr. Speaker, women's participation in the workforce is at an all-time high. Because of our investments in the early childhood educator workforce, we've also seen that wages have gone up for this workforce, Mr. Speaker. And one more thing, the Canada Child Benefit was raised in the summer, going up.
The Honourable Member for Kenora.
Mr. Speaker, that is cold comfort to the people struggling to fill their gas tanks, put food on the table, and afford simple, basic necessities. But we know the NDP will only pretend to stand up for Canadians if they can be assured that they have the backing of the bloc to keep this tired and corrupt government in power. 24 times, in fact, the NDP voted in favour of the carbon tax while Canadians are struggling just to get by. So once again, this is why we need a carbon tax election, so that Canadians can choose between our plan or the NDP Liberal plan. Why are they so afraid to give Canadians a choice at the ballot box?
Some voices are more distinct than others. The Honourable Member knows who I'm talking about. So I just remind all members to keep their voices unless they're recognized. And that question, there we go.